Episode 4 of The Curse begins with good news for Asher and Whit. HGTV has ordered a full season of their show Flippanthropy. Dougie is the first one to receive the call. He picks it up on the second time of asking. He can't say much as his phone's battery dies and Dougie has no charger handy. He also doesn't know where he is. Besides his own car, there are two more in the vicinity. All three cars are parked near a river stream on a giant land mass. Dougie reads the back of his hand, which says under the big tree. Naturally, he looks under the biggest tree for the next clue but finds none. Respecting the sense of irony, he finds success under the shortest tree, the keys to all three cars. The other two belong to people named Calvin and Wyatt. Dougie follows the address written on the accompanying note to a large house. Calvin is a minor, whose mother is confused about the whole thing. It is revealed that Dougie offered to buy beer for Calvin and Wyatt outside their school, trying to teach them a lesson about drunk driving, or something. You can't tell with Dougie sometimes. Calvin tries to spill all the blame on Dougie as his mother threatens to phone the police. Dougie smartly weaves himself out of the situation by citing how tough it would be for Calvin to shrug off a criminal record while applying for colleges. Martha Donovan, who earlier called Dougie, then calls the couple, who are excited beyond belief. She also mentions how the network has decided not to portray the new occupants of houses as displaced people, something that slightly irks Whitney. However, she is able to convince herself, and Asher, that it is all for good. Nothing will change their mission to help the people of the community. Asher's business acumen quickly comes into action, as he mentions the possibility of flipping houses for a larger profit after the show has aired. Whitney floats the idea of Asher joining a comedy class to shore up his humor skills before the shooting begins. He is a little offended, but there's no denying the need for it. The doorbell invites them to talk to Maria Witt, a neighbor living nearby. She shows them a note from Victor, another neighbor in the community. The tone is harsh and accusatory, which has made the members of the community uncomfortable. Vic accuses someone of stealing his packages. Maria implies that the note is racist and that the other native members aren't all right with it. Whitney reassures Maria she will talk to him and immediately leaves to see him. Vic is in no mood to apologize or take back the note. He has lost precious packages and is convinced one of them has taken it. Whitney leaves disappointed, even more so when she sees the stove appliance that they pre-installed in the house removed by Vic. This essentially goes against their passive home principles, but Asher is more concerned that a perfectly good $7,000 appliance is just sitting out in the open. Asher visits Questa Lane, bringing food and other supplies for the family. He also performs a mold test and makes small talk with Honey about the curse trend on TikTok. His real intention is to test what Nala knows about different kinds of pasta, which she doesn't. When Asher hears it, he takes Asher into another room and requests him to stop the curse talk. Their culture takes the issue very seriously, and he has worked hard to convince Honey not to talk about it. Whit, while sitting at the plaza, instructs her assistant to ask Fernando not to bring his gun belt to the store anymore. The coffee shop will be open soon, so he will be reverting to being a barista. Asher wants to take the appliance from Vic's house. He employs the help of one of his employees, who is uncomfortable with loading it all by himself. But Asher convinces him to do so, and as expected, he drops it. The stove breaks into two, with the other half remaining near the house as the duo leaves in a panicky state. While discussing strategy with Dougie, Asher asks him to remove Vic from the show. Dougie tries to mend old ways by apologizing for bullying Asher at camp. Asher is clueless about it happening and Dougie is relieved. Asher tries to unburden himself by talking to him about the curse, which prompts Dougie to show him the footage from that day. He asserts that curses are real and that he lost Melanie, his wife, due to a curse. It is conjecture at this point, but Asher takes it seriously. The episode ends on a whimsical note. Dougie, who found a shard from native pottery near the tree, is trying to discern its larger meaning, where there is none. And Whitney has a soulful experience listening to hymns and chants coming out of a religious gathering. The episode review. I find the lack of specificity in Asher's character challenging and relatable in the same breath. This guy is an enigma in every aspect of his personality. What does he really want? Is there anything more terrifying than Asher trying to be funny? We probably know the answer to the latter question, but won't get the first one until the very end of the show. Asher's constantly placid and underconfident sense of being is remarkably cringe. But it is also a distinguished presence on the curse. While the arcs for Whitney and Dougie are sufficiently detailed, Asher's is fleeting. Whitney's Fernando move might forebode something that happens in the next episode which could jeopardize not just the show, but also her personal brand. Her constant calling out of other people's privileges while being completely oblivious to her own says a lot about her. I'm struck not by how swiftly Whitney lets go of her values, but perhaps she has a skill in convincing herself that doing so actually upholds those very ideals. By sidestepping challenging issues like gentrification, she allocates more energy to championing the environmental angle of the project. Speaking of sidestepping, the casino evidence subplot has completely vanished. It was a reliable source of urgency in the storytelling that was very naturally pitched to us at the beginning. Anyway, I can gladly report the curse has remained faithful to the pilot. The promise from Benny Safdie and Nathan Fielder only seems to get better as the season progresses.